Hey everyone, today I have another task to cross off my list to get the garden ready for winter, and that is to store my dahlias. So I have been growing dahlias for 3 years now, so this will be my third time overwintering them. I tested two different methods the very first winter. Half of them I left in their pots, the other half I dug up and stored in vermiculite, and the clear winner of that experiment was leaving them in pots, because not only was it a lot easier, I actually killed the other ones because I forgot to check in on them. When you dig them up, you want them to stay not so moist that they'll rot, but moist enough that they don't dry out, and I completely forgot about them, whereas the ones in the pots you can forget about and they survived. So that is what I did last year, and that's exactly what I'm going to do again this year. So I store mine in the pots. I bring them in early in spring. I'll link down the video about pre-sprouting my dahlias. I'll bring them inside, pre-sprout them, and then move them outside, usually around mid-May. Now, the reason I have to store them inside is because I'm in Chicago and we have very cold winters. If you are in zones like 8, 9, or 10, you're probably going to be fine leaving them out in containers. Obviously, containers have a lot less protection than the ground, so even though I know some people in zones like 6 or 7 try to mulch the ground and get away with that, I would still move them inside if you are going to store them in containers. So let me go show you the dahlias that I'll be working with, and then I will go through my steps to prep them for the winter. I have 4 different dahlia plants. There is 1 in each pot, so there's 2 pots over here, and then there are 2 pots over there. I also grew maybe about 6 on the back deck, but it seemed like there was some sort of fungal issue, so I just tossed those, which you can choose to treat your dahlias as annuals. That's totally fine. And because my garden is smaller, it's not like I buy that many tubers each year anyway, so that would work for me. But if I like them, I like to try to be able to save them. Each of these, so there's 2 different varieties, so 4 plants total, 2 of each of those are the same variety, and then this is what you want them to look like before you cut them down. You want them to look like they are dead and done for the season. Now, I do know some gardeners who do cut their dahlias down before they look this dead, but in an ideal world, what you'd want to do is you'd want them to go through a hard frost so that they look like this, and then if possible, leave them for a couple more weeks, because similar to how spring bulbs work, when the foliage dies back, you don't want to cut the foliage off until it's all the way brown. Same thing with the dahlias. So while the stems look like this, the sugars are still going down into the tuber skin is toughening up, and that's just going to give them a little bit more of a chance to survive winter than if you cut them down when everything was green. But like I said, I do know people that do that and their tubers still come back. But if we're going to give these plants the best chance, wait till they look like this, and then if it doesn't drop too cold, then you want to leave them out for a couple weeks. So we had a very cold Halloween with a bunch of snow. It was the only time we've had snow so far this fall going into winter. So that's what killed these. And then since then, it's been like 40 and 50 degree days. So not cold enough where it's going to freeze and damage the tuber. So that's why I've been able to leave these out. But today we're going to cut these down and get them stored. Now, the first thing I'm going to do is remove the cages. So these are short cages that I used this year for the first time, and it definitely gave the best support to the dinner plate dahlias because these can get tall and they can start to flop over. So I really liked using these for my dahlias this year. So these I just store outside, and then let me grab my pruners. Then I'm going to just cut the stems back and leave a few inches sticking out of the soil. Now, I'm a fan of using specifically sunflower stalks as stakes in your garden or houseplants. These are more hollow, but I feel like something like this, if I just clean off the leaves, still could work to use as a stake. So I actually might save some of the thicker stems for that. Now, the next thing I'm going to do is just remove some of this top, maybe like inch of soil, and I'm just going to toss it over there in a grow bag. The reason I'm doing this is because what happened the first year when I overwintered them in their grow bags. They did fine. I brought them in the spring to pre-sprout, and I left them like in a room with the door closed, just so the cats wouldn't bother them. And I came into that room, and there was what looked like a bunch of dirt all over like the edges of the grow bag. So I thought, did a cat somehow get in here and dig through the soil? And then I realized those little black spots weren't soil. They were hundreds of tiny flies. And I freaked out and ran to get the grow bag outside so that all the flies were out there, which luckily they were. It was like they were all congregating on the bag. And so since then, so that was 2 years ago, last winter I did remove the first layer of soil because there might be insect eggs in here and I don't want to bring those into my house in spring. So while I don't mind if there are insects overwintering out here, I don't want them overwintering and then hatching inside of my house. So that is why I do that. But other than that, that's it. So this one is now ready to be taken down. I'm going to remove just a few of the other leaves in here. So now I will work my way through the other 3, exact same process, and then we'll move them downstairs and I'll talk a little bit about like temperature ranges and watering and all of that you want to do over winter. Now, obviously, since I am not digging up the tubers here, I'm not dividing them right now. You can divide them in the fall if you want to. What I'm considering, because this I think is the first year for all of them, the tubers are pretty small when I buried them. Like there was 1 tuber, I think, in everything that I planted. So maybe as just like an experiment in the spring, I'll dig 1 or 2 up and divide them then. Or I might just leave them. And I've done that before where I just leave them and then I have, you know, a plant that has more stems on it. But we'll kind of see how it goes. But you can, if you want to, divide them now, but that requires digging them up. And I don't want to do that. So I will divide any of these in the spring. Here are my 4 pots, dahlia stems cut down, first layer of soil removed. So now I need to carry all these down one by one to the garage. So I will see you down there. I carried all 4 pots down, so here are all of the dahlias. And I also have 4 pots of spring bulbs that I planted up that'll overwinter here as well. And this is where they will stay. I also got this thermometer on Amazon, which connects to my phone, so I can keep an eye on the temperature. So right now, obviously, heat's not on in the garage. We have it set the lowest so that when it goes below 40, it'll kick on and kind of keep it between like 40 to 45. So that should be a perfect temperature for everything that I plan to overwinter. Again, I will also post down below the video I made about chilling hours and chilling temperature to go over that, even though I'm very sad the audio quality is a bit off, but that talks more about the best temperature for overwintering things like bulbs and perennials. Much blurrier in here in the garage, but that's everything. That's everything I do. I'll maybe water once, if at all. I think these plastic pots will stay a lot more moist than the grow bags. I don't think they're going to dry out at the same rate. And the tubers themselves hold a pretty good amount of moisture. So we should be good. But yeah, I think that's going to be everything for this video. So let me know if you have any questions. Let me know if you do anything differently, and I will see you in the next one.